Hi guys, this is Eric from TechShare. Today I am going to show you how can you work with Sitecore 10 headless approach. So if you see in Sitecore 10, Sitecore introduced a couple of new features. One of the very nice feature is to work towards the headless development using .NET Core SDK. So previously, if you see, the headless development was totally based on the client approach. What I mean for that is Sitecore introduced JSS, that is still there in the market, JavaScript service. Through that, you can talk with the Sitecore. Sitecore also introduced layout service, so you can talk with the Sitecore. Layout service will give you the JSON data, JSON formatted data for different Sitecore items and all the necessary template and everything, and then you can use that. You can reuse that in your JSS application. You can talk with the Sitecore. You can define your layout. You can define your different renderings there, and then eventually you can host your application in a client kind of framework like Angular or React, and then eventually you would be able to create application using that. But in SDK for .NET Core, the concept is almost the same, but what Sitecore does basically is to let me show you here the picture, then you will understand here that the layout service is there, and Sitecore also completely separate the rendering host as well. So what it means by that is you can talk with the Sitecore. You can have your own rendering like the same way that we did for JSS, but in this case we are not going to use JSS but a sort of server-side approach. So you can create a .NET Core based web application, so which will be obviously a server-side rendering things, and then you can use the Sitecore SDK, which will give you the data that you need through the layout service, and you can actually design, you can define the layout, you can define your component and everything in the .NET Core application, and Sitecore will control the whole thing. Sitecore will give you the necessary data that you need, and obviously your Sitecore would be kind of your backend where you will define your different items, and in the rendering side you will have your own .NET Core based application where you will use your different layout, you will use your different component, you will map those things, and then you can create your different page and everything. You will use those components and everything, and you will get the data through the layout service from Sitecore, and eventually you will be able to create your own sort of application through the .NET Core based rendering kind of application that you are gonna develop. So let's jump into the example. So I'm gonna create a couple of videos using this concept. The very first thing would be to install. So how you are gonna install this is here. Basically, if you open this URL, I'm gonna put this URL in the description as well. You can grab that on. So this is the GitHub repository for Sitecore, and then here you will see the Helix examples, and they provide Helix examples, and in the example directory, Helix examples directory, they actually have given a couple of different approach. So if you open the examples directory, then you're gonna see that it has basically so it has your ASP.NET Core based rendering project, your Unicorn or TDS, whichever you like. You can use that to synchronize the items from here. So those are also provided here. So in the ASP.NET Core based approach, what would be the setup? So it explicitly mentioned here, so you can follow that. You can install .NET Core application, .NET Core 3.1 framework. You can run different PowerShell script that mentioned here, but what I'm gonna do today is to set up the same thing, but I'm not gonna use the approach that it defined through the approach of container based approach. So I'm not gonna use that one because the container based approach is really nice. So if you do that, then that would be the best thing, because then obviously the container would be there. You can quickly reset the environment, you can quickly start another thing, you can spin off another instance quite easily. But for my scenario, what is happening is I don't have much storage available. So what I needed to do is I already have installed Sitecore 10, so I just want to install the necessary thing to run this .NET Core based rendering project, or you can say the basic company website through the .NET Core based SDK approach. And I'm gonna use the existing Sitecore.net, that which is already installed in my machine. So I really don't wanna go with the container based approach. So what I can do for that, so I'm gonna show you today that one. But since I am not using the container based approach, so what you need to do is step by step is you need to install the first you need to grab the repository that you've done, and then you need to install the .NET Core 3.1 if you don't have installed already. So you need to install that. This is the second one. And then the very important thing you need to do before jumping into this is to install JavaScript service, which is really important because all the layout service and everything is under that. So you have to make sure that it is installed in your Sitecore instance. Now, Sitecore management service is also very important because Sitecore management service is the newest addition to Sitecore platform, part of the .NET Core based approach. So .NET Core based SDK that Sitecore is being provided, you'll see this is actually this is foundation service that you need to install, Sitecore management service. Once you do that, and you will get everything from as usual package in Sitecore dev.sitecore.net. Okay, now the very interesting thing that also Sitecore recently provided is the way you can serialize the items. So previously there were a couple of things you can manually serialize. You can grab the item file and then you can use Sitecore platform to serialize or deserialize, whatever. And then TDS was there as well. Sitecore bought that one, and then TDS is, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that you are not most of you are not familiar with TDS, but Unicorn is also very popular, and I am still using Unicorn in my official project. But now Sitecore introduced this very nice thing, Sitecore CLI. Why Sitecore introduced CLI? Well, that is different thing, different question, but the very nice question. The answer is Sitecore introduced this Docker container, and that Docker container is allowing user to be able to split down the whole application, or you can say the whole solution in different application working independently, right? So you have to make sure that especially Sitecore has to make sure that a user can configure easily each of the instance, and then it works as a whole. So for that you need to run a lot of background tasks to the Sitecore, so that Sitecore understand and do the work for you. And for that you need some sort of command line interface or something. Through that you can run different commands so that Sitecore can support that or execute that. So for that Sitecore introduced CLI, so that you can run your own command. You can log in for example in command prompt you can log into Sitecore, which is also possible right now. So here what you need to do for CLI, after installing this two, what you need to do, you need to run this thing here. Now run this command. That command I actually added as a global parameter, means it would be added as a global. So you can use this thing in every other Sitecore project or .NET Core SDK kind of project. So you can use the CLI to serialize, deserialize your items. So what we need to do here, why we are installing this one, because this example site, you see this is running nicely here, but it has a lot of data. So that data we needed to grab from here. So there is a so you will see if you open the Unicorn, so you will see Unicorn also configure all the serialize blah blah blah. So we also needed to get all the items here as a sort of CLI approach. So for that we'll use CLI to serialize, or you can say to grab all the items that is already there to our instances, or you can say our CM. So that was the reason. So after that the very first thing you need to do is to run the serialization, so that you can see straight away you can see you can open your content editor, and if you see all this data is there, basic company data, and then you will see this is the data, and also if you see the template and all the rendering and layout, then you will be 100% sure that the data is already installed, or you can say synced. So what you next need to do is to deploy your solution. Deploy your solution means this is the solution, basic company solution. So the first thing you need to do is to synchronize. So for that, what you need to do is here you need to follow a couple of commands. So the very first thing you need to do is you can follow the article here described, but we're not following the whole thing because we're not using the Dockerize, or you can say container approach. So you already did this one. So this is sorry, not this one, this CLI. So once you install the CLI, then you need to log into the Sitecore. This would be your fourth or third task. So log into Sitecore in PowerShell. So you need to go to your basic company, Helix Basics ASP.NET Core folder, and then you need to run this .NET Sitecore login, and that command will only work once your CLI is installed successfully. Once our CLI is already installed, I showed you before. So what you need to do, you need to use Sitecore .NET Sitecore login /cm, and then here you need to use your normal instance URL, and then auth URL. This is important, very nice, kind of parameter it is. So if you have a single instance, or you can say standalone instance, it should be standalone, not single, sorry. So if you have a standalone Sitecore instance, then here you will provide your identity URL. Okay, so for my scenario, let me show you. So here this is my instance and this is my identity server URL. So I will use this identity server URL here, and this one. If it runs successfully, then you will see something like this. Okay, here it's a login into Sitecore. You should see a browser window open shortly. So this is the message you will get, and yeah, the browser will pop up, and then you can agree, you can put your credential there, and then that's all. So this is the very first thing you need to do. Otherwise your CLI, or you can say the command, will not be executed because it won't be recognized to the system. So now after that you need to serialize, you need to run the serialize. That was the purpose. So for that you can run this one, .NET Sitecore serve push. So if you execute this command, and if you already logged in, then you should see some sort of this window. It will say all the products which was synchronized. It will list it down here, and then you can see that. Once the synchronization has done, you need to publish those items to the web database. For that you need to execute this CLI command, .NET Sitecore publish. That will publish all your items. So we are still using the single instance of, sorry, pardon me, this is not single instance, this is we are using is standalone Sitecore instance. Okay, once it is done, means your synchronization part is done. So next thing you need to do, you need to deploy the whole web application to your root folder. For that, what you need to do, you need to just select on and then publish, click the publish button. One by one you can do that. So what you don't need to do is this one. So you don't need to publish this one, because this is the rendering project which will be using to render the web application, right? So previously we were using here the JavaScript JSS based Angular or React application, but this time we are not using Angular or React application, but we are using a server side based .NET Core application, which will be used as a rendering. But that's not all. You need to modify a couple of things here as well. So if you open this application settings, then what you need to do, you need to make sure this application setting is configured correctly to your application, to your Sitecore. So for that, the instance URI would be a Sitecore instance URI. Layout service for everything should be as it is. API key should be as it is, because once you do the unicorn sync, you will get out of the box everything. But the next thing what you need to do is to I think everything is already there, so you just need to make sure the instance URI is there, right? And is there anything you need to do is, I guess, so another thing you need to do here is this application URL. So if you open the application, then you will see, if you go here, build, actually what you can do is you can straight away run, which is already running here. You see this is the localhost 59580. so this URL is necessary because we are running this application. So if you open this here, then I explicitly mention here, so rendering host URI, this is also very important. So rendering host URI will make sure that let me open again. So this application JSON is the production sort of application. So this is the development version of my application settings.json. so here you will see, so when I debug this mode, development mode, basically it is this configuration is using, not the top one. So ideally that should be same for your local environment, but that might vary different for different environment. I guess you already know that. So here in the development, you will see here I have used instance URI, as well as there is a rendering host URI, and rendering host URI should be the URI of this application, rendering application. Okay, and then once you run, after deploying all of those website application, once you run, then what it will do is it will communicate to Sitecore. It will take the request from the route, or you can say the URL, and then it will resolve your route. It will then talk with Sitecore. It will grab the data, it will map the data, it will create the model, map the data, it can grab the data through layout service, and then as you design here in different project, it will be rendered. So I'll show you one example here. So if you see the default controller, right? So what is default controller? So if you open this startup, then you will see we have some configuration. So we got some sort of SDK support from Sitecore. That's why actually we can see it's running. So here you will see we have added couple of Sitecore related libraries. So here you will see here Sitecore SPNet experience editor, Sitecore layout service, different thing, and also rendering is in everything, right? And then in the configure service, you will see all the setup that we need. And then the very nice thing is, see here, so first you need to do is register Sitecore rendering engine. So what is the rendering engine is this is a Sitecore part. So what you need to do, you need to just register service.add Sitecore rendering, and then you need to provide your components here so that Sitecore can take control of this thing and render. Most important thing here is, if you see here what we're talking about, we're talking that okay, this rendering is part of this feature. Basically all of my features, so right now we have this couple of feature 1 2 3 4. So if you have another 6 different feature, that will go here. Okay, and then for example, when we say that add basic content, add feature basic content, what is it? So if you go here, then you will see that this feature basic content is a combination of this thing. So this has a model bound view, this partial view. So I'll explain this thing in my next video, but for now just think that once you set up this rendering project for the basic company with all the other project, and if you could successfully see this thing running like this, then your environment is completely ready. You have a project which is this rendering project. This is a .NET based project which is using Sitecore .NET based libraries, and it is actually talking with the Sitecore and rendering all the necessary data, rendering all the necessary items that we need to render. based on the definition that you provided through that. So we'll explain that on later on, but if it works, then you are actually completing the very fundamental things so that you can move forward with your application. You can add a new feature with your application, however. So yeah, that's what I wanted to mention today, describe today. Hope you understand. And I'm not gonna make this video long, so that's for today. The next video, what I'll do is I will explain how it works. So I will explain how this default controller triggers in, and then how it resolves the different request route and everything, and how you're gonna compose a page and compose the different components. That would be my second video. So in the third video, I'll try to create my own web application, own rendering. That would be more appropriate, where I'm gonna render a new sort of pages or new sort of web application. Okay, till then, have a good night and see you very soon. Bye bye.